To be honest, that's the one thing that I'm really surprised about, mostly of all this, because if you look at everything that's happened and what is speculated to potentially happen very soon, not surprised of USC and UCLA going to the Pac-12 or to the Big Ten. Not surprised by that. I'm not surprised that the Big Ten wants Notre Dame. I'm a little surprised that the Big Ten doesn't immediately chomp at the bit to add Oregon. That's the one thing that I'm kind of like, wow, I'm surprised that Oregon is sort of like second fiddle to USC and Notre Dame. And you just look at Oregon, and I mean, Oregon, especially recently, has been one of the bigger brands in college football. They've been to two different national championship games. They've won a playoff game. They've obviously been to the playoff. And that's all in the last 12 years. It's a big brand. They've had success with multiple coaches, and they have a ton of money. Obviously, Phil Knight and the whole Nike deal there. I'm just kind of surprised that Oregon isn't one of the first teams that you're thinking when all this expansion happens and these two super conferences are forming. Oh yeah, they'll be fine.
I 100% agree with that, Shoob. I remember you and I were talking about this a little bit off camera, and we were saying, wouldn't it be amazing if the Big 12, was able to get Oregon and Washington just for the sake of competitive balance? But we were also thinking there's no way the Big 12 gets Oregon or Washington because the Big 10 is just going to scoop up all the big money schools. And when you look at it, I'm so shocked that the Big Ten is not going to expand as of right now to grab Oregon because Oregon financially is the 13th largest FBS market when it comes to what their net worth is and what they generate. Oregon is absolutely stout when it comes to making money. So it's really shocking that the Big Ten doesn't want to add Oregon to the revenue stream, given the fact that all these moves have been made because of money. And not only that, Oregon is a competitive football program. So you're adding prestige and you're adding money. So it seems like a no-brainer for the Big Ten to go after Oregon. But that's why I am just so shocked by the fact that they haven't even tried to go after Oregon. Maybe it stems from them wanting to bring in two teams, bring them in pairs, and that's why they want Notre Dame. And maybe they just don't have enough respect for Washington as a program to say Oregon and Washington, we prefer Notre Dame. Or maybe it's more of the case that we really, really want Notre Dame. And if we take these other two teams, then we add Notre Dame, then we're uneven. So maybe that's kind of where they're coming from. But it's just so interesting to me that a team like Oregon is on the outside looking in as of right now, and they may be forced into joining the Big 12.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to at the end of the day when people are wondering like why these decisions are being made and what's the driving factor behind this conference realignment. At the end of the day, it's the revenue stream, it's the money, it's the finances, and it's the television networks. It's really becoming an arms race between Fox and ESPN. Fox, of course, owns the television rights to the Big Ten, and ESPN has the television rights to the SEC starting in 2025. So Fox, at the end of the day, this is what's happening: is Fox is telling the Big Ten, hey, if you add Notre Dame, that'll add an increase to the per team payout, per school payout in the future. But if you add Notre Dame, it'll also be feasible to add Oregon. If you don't add Notre Dame, it's not financially that worthwhile to add both Oregon and Washington. They would more so just dilute the conference a little bit more. So it's not worthwhile. It's basically a cost analysis. And, I think the Big Ten does want Oregon. It's just they only want Oregon if they're coming in a package deal with Notre Dame. And obviously, if you're Oregon, on the other hand, if you're Oregon, your first move is to join the Big Ten. If anything, you're not chomping at the bit to go to the Big 12. I mean, let's just be honest here. The Big 12 is sort of like a fallback option at this point, but we'll see how it shakes out. I think initially it looked like there was a really good chance that Notre Dame would actually sort of make the move and join the Big Ten because it does make a ton of sense geographically, even though that doesn't really matter much anymore, clearly. But geographically, Notre Dame is right there in the heart of Big Ten country. Notre Dame, of course, has rivalries with a ton of Big Ten schools that they play annually, and they also have a rivalry with USC that they play annually. So it's like the stars kind of align for Notre Dame to do this and make the move to the Big Ten. But I don't know, Notre Dame, they got some big heads, they got big egos, and they really are big in the whole tradition and being an independent. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure they're debating it, and I don't really know exactly how the fan base feels. I'm sure the Notre Dame fan base maybe is a little bit divided. in some regard as to whether they want to stay independent or join the Big Ten. But at the end of the day, I guess Notre Dame is holding Oregon's fate. It looks like.